Okay, hopefully this will be helpful. I'm going to try and do a quick demo of how exactly, or some of the stuff we're talking about. Now, first of all, I'm going to start with this nib. I think that turns out, I think it's like a 2 mil nib. I haven't even measured it. But there's, come on. There we go. All right, so that's the nib I'm going to do for most of the work. For those curlicues that you're talking about, I'll switch to this. And I'll explain this in a minute. There's two aspects to how to form a letter. And it's basically how you move the pen and your angle. So if this is your line, right? The angle of your pen that your pen makes to the angle of the line is part of it. And another aspect of it is how much pressure you put. So if I put pressure, let's see if I can do this like this. If I put pressure against the nib, see how that splits? Well, as I pull down, and if I put pressure on, it's going to make that nib go even wider. So this is the widest my pen will go if I'm going perpendicular to that, right? The narrowest that will do will be when I'm going perfectly parallel to that. And it's the function of those two things that create your shape of your letter. The other thing you can do is you can also angle your pen up and away, right? You see how that is? So if I need to get to a little tiny point, I can do that, but that only gets me a very short distance because I'm pulling on. What ends up happening is the ink gets pulled from this reservoir down this slit, and as I move off of that, then I only have what's left on the point of the pen, which isn't much. This, by the way, is Pergamena. This is the stuff that I told you about. You can see it's a little bit thick. It's got some little heft to it, but that's what we want. I always use a sponge because what I find is when I clean my brush or when I clean my nib, after I've gone a few strokes, things will start to dry on my nib, and so I'll come back onto this wet. You can see how it's wet. I'll come back on this wet sponge and I'll give it a quick brush off, so then my nib is clean, and I'll keep going. Balance of ink, how wet your ink is, what's your pressure, etc. All of that depends on how you do a letter. Ideally, you're going to form a letter 45-degree angle. So this right here, right? There, it was wet, so it got something. So a 45-degree angle is the general, right? Some go at 30, some go a little bit more. Depends on the angle where you want the thickest part. And I think like unseal is closer to a 30. So let's go ahead and pull a bit. So get the ink started. That right there. Now if I wanted to get wider as I get down to that bottom, right? Give it a pressure and it'll get wider, right? And I didn't have a whole lot of ink on it when I dipped, so. Right? So a lot of that flow, and it all depends on how much. Now, I could dip that a lot more to get actually up into that reservoir, but I'm not going to. But so if I also go, if I go here, or if I go here, see, that makes them different thicknesses. So that angle plays a part of it. But if I also go for those thin moves like you talked about, see how that line, so if I want to do like what you were talking about, those that Latin script, right? There. And if you notice, they actually were a little bit canted back. And the way I'm doing this right now, I pretty much have to dip after each letter. Right, I could do that. But if I want the Q, then I can come here, do my pull. And that'll do that. And this allows me, this nib gives me the ability to do those lines, right? So that's how I cheat on some of those. But in reality, really just doing each of these strokes, that's it. That's the stroke. I'm gonna make an A, or like an E in this alphabet, or in this hand, I guess. I'm just gonna go here. Then I put my pen down there. That's an E. Okay. Hope that helps.